This is how I won 13 buy-ins completely drunk and how I got all of my other friends drunk with me. We're playing Greg's game, but if you lose at Showdown, you take a shot. Plus, my ex is here. OGs will remember Courtney from my earlier videos, but we broke up last year when I moved to Vancouver and she went to go work on a boat. But she's on land for a few days, and what better way to reconcile than to take money from each other? Oh, and shooting paintballs at each other, but that's later on in the video. We're playing $1 early on. Courtney opens 9-7 suited under the gun and folds to me in the big blind, and seeing that it's just Courtney in the hand, I call blind in the big blind with the infamous Robbie. So we're heads up to a flop out of position. Flop is ace, king, queen, rainbow. Smashes what I perceive to be Courtney's under the gun range. Little did I know how loosely she was playing that night. I check, and Courtney sheepishly checks back. I've looked at my hand at this point, hit that like button for a bink on the turn, and bink, it's a 10 on the turn, giving me Broadway and giving Courtney a flush draw. I bet $15 into the $7 pot like an idiot, and Courtney calls like a genius. River is the 7 of hearts. Courtney bricks her flush draw but makes a pair, and I jam $80 into the pot of $37 because fuck it. And Courtney actually tanks about this decision because she knows enough from our relationship to not trust me, but she finds it in her heart to give me some credit, and she finds the fold. Good fold, Court. Next big hand, I pick up ace-5 suited on the triple straddle. After everybody limps, I make like a toothpaste tube and squeeze all in. Everyone folds except Mateo, who has ace-jack offsuit, putting me in complete domination nation. We're both all in for snacks, and here comes the run out.
Okay, flop comes in. Ace 3 ace here. Greg with 6 outs.
I need a 5. I need a 5. Or
9 outs here. 6, 3, or a 5.
I lose, I take a shot, and I buy back in for another $100. Okay, don't ask me how, but we've somehow got a straddle up to $32 in this $1 game. I'm first to act, and I pick up fucking ace king offsuit, big slick, the nut high cards. I've got less than 4 big blinds effective. I make an easy jam, and Mateo, who's the $32 straddler, makes the call as he's a little pot committed. I have a chance for revenge, and here comes the run out.
Oh my god. All straight.
Oh my god. Please.
9, 10, 8 all straight. Oh. Bring it back.
I somehow fade all of the outs and get my money back from Mateo. I am running so hot and it just does not stop. Mateo opens under the gun with 8-7 offsuit, and I 3-bet to $11 with 10s from the button. Courtney on my left comes along with 8-7 suited, and Mateo comes along with 8-7 not suited. When flop comes jack, queen, ace, rainbow, none of us feel good on this board. I've got 4th pair, and both Mateo and Courtney have 8 high. It checks around. Turn is the jack of diamonds pairing the board and giving Courtney the flush draw, but it checks around again. And river is the most perfect card I could ever imagine. It's the 10 of diamonds, giving me a boat, bringing 4 to a straight, and bringing in Courtney's flush. Courtney checks her flush over to us, laying down what she thinks is the trap. Mateo takes the bait and bluffs $10 into the pot of $34. I raise to $95. It's all in for Courtney to call, but she's understandably worried after seeing a bet and a raise. Please, Felton needs new food. Shot for Courtney, please. I'm now sitting on $300, up $100, but remember, we're grinding this up till I'm up $1,300. It limps to me on the under the gun straddle, and I'm admittedly a little drunk at this point after losing a few small pots. I squeeze to $10, and only Garrett, my friend and editor, calls with ace-5 offsuit, so we're heads up to a flop. In position, flop comes ace, queen, 8, 2 spades. I have jack high and a gut shot. Garrett has top pair, weak kicker. Garrett checks and flow to me, and I see bet on this board that is going to be better for my opening range, and Garrett makes the right call with top pair. Turn is the 10 of clubs. I am running way too hot. I just hit my gut shot and I have the second nuts on the board, only losing the king jack off, which I doubt Garrett will have when he limps pre-flop. It checks to me again, and I should note here that the graphic is wrong and Garrett actually has $96. I bet $20, setting myself up for a pot size shove on the river, and Garrett calls. River is the king of diamonds, bringing 4 to a straight, which I don't love as it now might kill action. It checks to me, and Greg goes all in, and Garrett goes into the blender.
Is this good, guys?
Yes.
Greg, will you post this on YouTube?
It's already on.
I need to know, do you have anything?
And he makes the call.
This hand, I get aces on the big blind after hijack opens and a call. I love getting aces in the blinds because I get to make it a 3-bet pot as opposed to a single raise pot when I open it in early position and get 1,000 calls. Of course, I 3-bet to $15. Chuch's dream of winning the 7-deuce game cannot be dampened. He calls, and Mateo knows that I like to squeeze, knows I squeeze too light too often, and decides to back raise 4 bets, king 3 suited. Mateo only has about $100 more left behind, so I just 5-bet jam, which is just a little more than a min raise effectively. Chuch's 7-deuce dreams get crushed, and he folds.
I'm okay taking a shot. Am I okay losing
Holy,
this
this
money?
is so good. You just drink out the bottom.
Oh, he talked.
said there's no chest.
Flop gives me a set, but there is a diamond on the board, and turn has got Mateo like a zombie with a crayon, drawing dead. So now I'm sitting on $625, 6x the max buy-in. We're almost halfway there, folks. The very next hand, I 3-bet king queen offsuit from the small blind versus a button open. Jay calls and Edison folds. I've got Jay's king 10 offsuit completely dominated, and we're heads up to a flop out of position, and flop comes king 6-4 rainbow. I have top pair, great kicker. I c-bet $9, and Jay just ships it all in for $88. I'm in pain. I saw him take a similar line last game where he just open shoved on the flop with a strong 2-pair, and I called with my top pair, good kicker, and died. Just like my memories of Courtney, I can't help but relive this memory over and over again. I forget all of my therapy and let my trauma manifest itself as poor decisions, and I make it the fold. Okay, so I get forced all in this hand. We're all pretty wasted at this point. I think I said all in drunkenly before the hand started, so everyone decided to collude against me and limp or fold pre-flop so that the action doesn't change and so that I have to go all in. I don't know. Mateo limps, I'm forced all in, he calls, and miraculously, we're flipping. I have 4s versus his jack 8 off. Flop comes 10-10-5. Mateo has 9 outs, and he jack 8 or 5 to counterfeit me.
Counterfeit time?
Turn is sweaty. It's the 9 of clubs, now giving Mateo 20 outs. Fucking 20. And the river does what a river do. I get counterfeited like a $100 bill, and of course, I take another shot. Now back down to $470. Still got a while to grind it up to $1,500. We decided to do a round of pot limit Omaha. It limps around to me in the big blind with ace king 9 deuce double suited to the ace and king. I pot it, and surprise surprise, Jay calls, Chuch calls, and Mateo back raises again, but this time he does have a hand. He's got kings. He pots it to $38, folds back to me, and I call, and Chuch calls. 3 ways to a flop. Flop is ace 5-3 rainbow. I have top pair, top kicker, a gut shot, and 2 backdoor flush draws. Chuch has a pair of 3s, and Mateo has kings on an ace high board. Ayah. Again, I'm a little tipsy, and I've forgotten that I wasn't the pre-flop aggressor, so I donk into this pot and bet $40. Chuch folds, and Mateo calls, so we're heads up now to a turn out of position. Turn is the queen of spades. None of my backdoors come in, and I do only have a pair in PLO, so I decide to pot control and check the turn, and Mateo checks back. River is the 9 of spades, giving me 2 pair. I go for value and bet $85, and Mateo rips it all in for $178. I do not like putting money in PLO when I do not have the nuts, near the nuts, or drawing to the nuts, so this is a little bit uncomfortable, but once I figure out the bet size, the pot odds I have, and realize I have almost 5-1 to call, I put in the side call, and what a relief it is to hear when I say Mateo say,
Oh, you're good.
I show my 2 pair and take down this $559 pot. I'm now sitting on under $800, more than halfway to our goal. Gotta deliver on my clickbaits. I pick up kings under the gun. I exploitatively open to $5 instead of 3, and by exploitatively, I mean I'm being unbalanced and a drunk donkey. Chuch calls and Edison calls. Nonetheless, I flop the nuts with top set. Edison has an open ender with backdoor diamonds, and Chuch has peanuts. I'm first to act. I usually like checking top set heads up since I block a lot of hands that villain can continue with, but multi-way, there are more ranges that I can get value from, so I bet a third of the pot for $5, and I do get 2 calls. Turn improves both of my opponents. It's the 5 of diamonds, giving Edison a flush draw to go along with his open-ended straight draw, and Chuch goes from having 6 high to still 6 high, but now he's also open-ended. Edison checks to me again. I'm only worried about 6-9, but I still got a bet. I bet $20. Chutch calls, and Edison jams all in for $90. I rejam and Chutch folds, so we're now heads up to a run out with only one more card to come. It's a huge sweat here as Edison is open-ended and has a flush draw. I have to dodge 13 outs, but I'm riding this River of Dreams on a boat as the river pairs the board, and I'm now sitting on $913. So a fun thing we do here on Greg's Game, as you can see here on the bottom right of the screen, is that we accept super chats, of which a third go into a bomb pot at the end of the night. As an extra incentive, we allowed viewers to buy players shots that night, and at some point Garrett, who was doing commentary, made the proposition that for a $75 super chat, Courtney was shooting me with a paintball gun. And not long after,
A $75 donation will get Courtney to shoot Greg with a paintball gun. $75! $75!
so we got ourselves set up and put up a mattress against the kitchen counter. I showed Courtney how to use the gun, we cleared the room, and when everything was ready...
5 more shots.
And we have contact.
Leaving me wasn't enough? Just kidding, it was mutual. After this, at some point, Garrett makes the proposition to the chat that for $200, Greg will shoot Courtney. And soon after that...
And we are back to... Oh, we have a $220... Oh, dude. We have received the $200 donation with a $20 tip on top of that. This is poker. This is poker, people. I don't know what you think poker is. I don't know if you think it's cards and folding and holding and whatever, but this is poker.
Okay, this is the last significant hand of the night, and I want to be completely transparent here. When I had sobered up the next day, I did not feel good about this hand. For context, I was pretty drunk, and Jay was completely drunk. I'm just gonna let this play out so you can judge.
Ezra, what's going on with Jay?
I'm all in.
What do I have?
You called! You said call!
Wait, what is all in?
And you said you would call whatever.
Oh, yeah, I call.
I am going to address this after, but let's watch the hand play out first. So Jay calls the all-in, and Mateo goes deep into the feeling range and calls all-in with 7-5 offsuit. We agree to run twice, so I have jacks versus queen deuce off versus 7-5 off. First board comes out ace-9 deuce, 8-10. That one is mine. And second board comes out king-9 6, 10 deuce. I scoop both boards. And I thought about this hand the next day. I felt conflicted because Jay was forced to call because Floor, which is the dealer when I'm playing, didn't inform Jay that the action had changed after he said call out of turn, and I went all in, and that Jay could actually do whatever he wanted. But at the same time, he did say call after I went all in. Regardless, at the end of the day, the money is worth nothing compared to the relationships I have here with all of my friends. So the next day I called Jay to check in with him. I shared with him that I felt uncomfortable keeping all of the money as the floor didn't inform him of his options, but not comfortable giving it all back as he still did say call, and it is still somewhat his responsibility to know what his options are. So I offered him $400, a little more than half his stack back, and surprisingly he immediately declined and cited that if he had stacked me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Anyway, I asked him a couple more times if he was sure, and he said yeah. So I guess I'm keeping his money, but I'm treating him to extra dinners and desserts for the next couple of months. Thank you, Jay. We continue playing a little longer after this hand, and at the end of the stream, I was in for $200, out for $1,474 for a profit of $1,274. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to tune in this Saturday for Greg's Game. But if you lose at Showdown, you eat a pepper, and milk is $10. Stay loose, play 7 deuce, and subscribe, you donkeys.